At first, I told myself I was imagining things. The late nights at the office, suddenly more frequent. The hushed phone calls that ended the second I walked into the room. The way she'd tilt her screen away from me when texting, her thumb moving fast like she was erasing evidence. Just work stress, she'd say with a sigh, rubbing her temples. You wouldn't understand. But I did understand stress. I understood exhaustion. What I didn't understand was the way her eyes darted away when I asked who kept calling her at midnight, or why her perfume lingered in the air even on nights she claimed to have gone straight to bed. Then came the locked doors. Our bedroom, the bathroom, even the goddamn laundry room, places that had never been off limits before. If I got too close, she'd step in front of me, her smile tight, her voice just a little too bright. Oh, I've got it, don't worry. But I was worrying. The final straw was the Thursday she worked late again. I drove past her office at 8 p.m. Her parking spot was empty. No lights on in her department, no sign of her car anywhere in the lot. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. When I got home, she was already there, humming in the kitchen, her blouse just slightly wrinkled. Traffic was awful, she said without looking up. That's when I knew. Not what was happening, not who was involved, but enough. Enough to make my hands curl into fists at my sides, enough to make my stomach twist like I'd swallowed glass, and enough to decide I was going to find out the truth, no matter what it took. I spent the next 3 days researching, not confronting her, not yet. That would come later. First, I needed proof, hard, undeniable evidence that would strip away the lies and force the truth into the light. Security cameras, small ones, discreet. I ordered 3 from an online retailer under a fake account, tiny, high-definition lenses disguised as everyday objects. One looked like a phone charger, another blended into a bookshelf. The third was a sleek black dome no bigger than a watch face, designed to nestle among the decorative frames on our living room wall. They arrived in plain packaging. I stashed the box in my trunk until she left for another one of her late shifts. That night, I installed them with shaking hands. The charger cam went by the kitchen outlet, angled just right to catch the back door. The bookshelf unit nestled between old college textbooks I knew she'd never touch. The dome perched above the fireplace, its unblinking eye framing the couch where we'd curled up together for movie nights. Back when we still did things like that. Every placement felt like a betrayal, but so did the lipstick stain on her collar last week. So did the Uber receipt to a hotel downtown. So did the way she'd started sleeping with her back to me, the space between us in bed growing colder every night. The app connected instantly. A green light blinked once on each device. Then nothing. Invisible. Waiting. I spent the first night staring at the live feeds like a man possessed, jumping at every shadow. The house remained still. Empty. Normal. By day 3, doubt crept in. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe there was some logical explanation for everything. Maybe... Then the notification chimed at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. Motion detected living room. My lunch turned to lead in my gut as I tapped the alert. The timestamp showed her walking in with a man I'd never seen before, tall, dark-haired, his hand already sliding up her waist as she laughed against his shoulder. The footage rolled on, her fingers threading through his hair, his mouth on her neck, the way she guided him backward toward the couch without breaking contact, like they'd done this 100 times before. I watched until my vision blurred. Then I saved the clip and made the second call to a divorce attorney whose ad promised no mercy for cheaters. The game had changed. Now it was my turn to play. For 5 agonizing days, nothing happened. The cameras kept recording, dutifully capturing every mundane moment, the coffee maker gurgling at dawn, the mail piling up on the counter, the cat knocking over a vase she'd always hated. Normal life. The life we were supposedly still living together. I reviewed the footage each night after she fell asleep, my phone screen glowing in the dark bedroom. Empty hours scrolled by and fast-forward until my eyes burned. Maybe it had been a one-time thing. Maybe... Then Friday came. The notification buzzed in my pocket during a staff meeting. Motion detected, home office. I excused myself, locking the bathroom stall before opening the feed. There she was, perched on the edge of my desk, in the room where I paid our bills, planned our future. Her legs swung like a child's as she smiled at someone off camera. The audio crackled to life. Don't know why you keep insisting we meet here. Her voice, honey sweet. Because it's perfect. A man's chuckle, the same one from before. He'll never think to look in his own damn office. The camera only caught his back as he moved toward her, but I didn't need to see his face. The way her body arched to meet him told me everything. My stomach heaved as fabric rustled, as she gasped his name, Daniel, like it was some sacred prayer. I barely made it to the toilet before vomiting. That night, I downloaded every incriminating second to 3 separate hard drives. One went to my lawyer. One stayed hidden in my gym locker. The third I buried in a password-protected folder labeled Tax Documents 2014, the year we got married. She came home smelling like citrus and guilt, humming as she stirred a pot of spaghetti. "Long day?" she asked, glancing at my untouched dinner plate. I made myself meet her eyes. "You could say that?" Upstairs, I checked the bedroom camera, the one I'd installed that morning inside the smoke detector, just in time to see her text Daniel, "Miss you already. Tomorrow?" 3 bubbles appeared. Then, "Only if you wear that red thing again." I turned off my phone. The worst part wasn't the betrayal, it was realizing how long I'd been the punchline of a joke only they knew about. I waited until 3:17 a.m., when her breathing settled into the deep, even rhythm of sleep, before sliding out of bed. My bare feet barely made a sound against the hardwood as I moved through the dark house like a ghost. The kitchen knife block gleamed under the moonlight. For one dizzying second, I imagined taking one. Not for violence, just to feel something solid in my grip. Instead, I grabbed the scotch from the liquor cabinet and poured 3 fingers into a tumbler. The burn down my throat grounded me. The footage played on my laptop at the dining table, muted, but no less damning. There they were again today, this time in our bedroom, our bed. Her red lace teddy, a birthday gift from me, pooled on the floor beside his discarded belt. I drained the glass. My lawyer's words echoed in my skull. "With this evidence, we can eviscerate her in court." The phrase should have brought satisfaction. Instead, it tasted like the scotch, harsh and empty. A floorboard creaked upstairs. I snapped the laptop shut just as her shadow appeared in the hallway. "Can't sleep?" she murmured, rubbing her eyes. Even now, half asleep in ratty sweatpants, she was beautiful. That was the cruelest part. "Just some work stuff," I lied, watching her yawn. Did her lips still taste like him? She padded to the fridge, her back to me as she grabbed a water bottle. "You've been so distant lately." A pause. "Are we okay?" The knife block called to me again. "Yeah," I said, smiling the way she used to smile at me before the lies began. "We're perfect." When she went back upstairs, I opened the filing app on my phone, selected every video from the past 2 weeks, attached them to an email addressed to my lawyer, my brother, and a private investigator. The cursor hovered over send. Somewhere above me, our headboard thumped against the wall, the sound of her adjusting pillows. Nothing more. But my fingers remembered the rhythm from the videos. I hit send. The knife block stayed untouched. The real blades would come later. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. I watched through the kitchen camera as she tore open the envelope, her face draining of color. Her hands shook, the same hands that had traced patterns on Daniel's back in our bed, as she fumbled for her phone. "What the hell is this?" Her voice cracked through the speaker. "You tell me," I said, calm as a surgeon making the first incision. She screamed then, real, raw screams that sent the cat bolting under the couch. I sipped my coffee watching the live feed, savoring every shattered syllable. The courtroom smelled like lemon polish and lies. Her lawyer, a slick-haired shark in a $3,000 suit, patted her shoulder as she dabbed at dry eyes. "Your Honor, my client has been blindsided by these baseless accusations of infidelity." "Exhibit A," my attorney interrupted, pressing a button. The monitor behind the judge flickered to life. Silence. Then gasps as the footage played, her moaning Daniel's name in our bed, her laughing as he poured champagne into the wedding flutes we'd used just 18 months ago. The timestamp glowed bright in the corner. June 14th, 3:22 p.m. Our anniversary. The judge removed his glasses. "Counselor, perhaps you'd like to revise your opening statement?" She lunged at me in the hallway during recess. "You sick bastard!" Her manicured nails raked toward my face before bailiffs pulled her back. Spit flew from her mouth. "You filmed me without..." Consent? I straightened my tie. Funny word coming from you. Her lawyer was already whispering frantically about damage control. Too late. Across the room, a court reporter's phone buzzed nonstop. The first leaks hitting social media. Memes exploded across platforms. Freeze frames of her ecstasy face juxtaposed with shocked reaction gifs. The champagne clip racked up 2 million views in 3 hours. Someone even created a parody TikTok dance. My phone lit up with interview requests. Good Morning America, Dr. Phil, a true crime podcast offering 5 figures for an exclusive. I declined them all. The world had its pound of flesh. I was waiting for the rest. The footage spread like wildfire. I barely made it out of the courthouse before my phone started exploding with notifications. First came the texts. Friends, family, even people I hadn't spoken to in years, all reaching out after seeing snippets of the courtroom footage online. Then came the media requests, the interview offers, the strangers sliding into my DMs with their own stories of betrayal. By evening, the internet had already dissected every frame. Memes popped up everywhere, turning my personal hell into public entertainment. Someone synced her moans to a popular dance track. A Twitch streamer spent hours analyzing her body language. A self-proclaimed psychic claimed my dead relatives were watching from beyond and approved of my actions. The absurdity would have been funny if it wasn't my life being picked apart. Daniel was the first to crack under the scrutiny. Internet sleuths matched his Rolex from the videos to his LinkedIn profile, and within hours his company announced his termination. I didn't feel satisfaction, just a dull acknowledgement that this was how the world worked now. Once something was online, it never went away. She called me in a panic when the mob turned on her. Our address had been leaked, and strangers were posting photos of our house online. A rock shattered the bedroom window, the same window where the cameras had captured so much. Her voice trembled as she demanded I make it stop, but I had no control over this anymore. The second that footage entered the courtroom, it stopped being mine. Now it belonged to the internet. Her lawyer tried to argue that the viral nature of the tapes had poisoned the case, but the judge wasn't swayed. The truth was the truth. No matter how many people had seen it, the trial would go on. That night, I sat alone in the house, the silence heavier than ever. The cameras were still mounted, but now they faced outward, keeping watch over the empty street. I poured myself a drink, just one, and stared at the blank TV screen, my reflection faint in the darkened glass. Somewhere out there, she was scrambling, desperate to undo what couldn't be undone. But the world had already moved on to the next scandal, and I was finally free. The judge's gavel fell with finality. I expected to feel triumph when the divorce decree was finalized, some surge of victory after months of fighting. Instead, there was just silence, the kind that settles after a storm has passed, leaving only wreckage in its wake. She got nothing. No alimony, no claim to the house, not even visitation rights for the cat she'd adopted 3 years ago. The judge had taken one look at the mountain of evidence, the videos, the texts, the hotel receipts, and ruled with barely concealed disgust. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions neither of us answered. She kept her head down, sunglasses hiding swollen eyes, as her lawyer hurried her to a waiting Uber. I watched the car disappear around the corner, half expecting to feel something. I didn't. The house was too quiet when I returned. I methodically removed each camera, wiping away the fine layer of dust where they'd been hidden. The one above our bed came down last. I turned it over in my hands, remembering how it had captured the final unraveling of everything we'd built. My lawyer called as I was boxing them up. You should know, her new apartment complex rejected her application after the leasing office saw the news coverage. She's staying at some motel near the highway. I stared at the blank space on the wall where our wedding photo used to hang. Not my problem anymore. That night, I burned the leftover traces of her existence. Old birthday cards, a sweater she'd forgotten, the bottle of perfume that still lingered in the air like a ghost. The flames consumed it all, turning memories to ash. When the fire died down, I opened my laptop one final time, deleted every video file, emptied the trash. Then I poured 2 fingers of whiskey, the good stuff I'd been saving for a special occasion, and drank alone at the kitchen table. The cameras were gone. The truth was out, and for the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like peace. 6 months later, the house no longer smelled like her perfume. I'd repainted every room, neutral tones where there had once been bright colors she'd picked out. The bedroom became an office. Her walk-in closet now held gym equipment. The changes were small but significant, like removing stitches from a healing wound. My brother convinced me to get rid of the cat. That thing probably watched the whole affair go down, he joked darkly. But I kept her. She'd never chosen sides, after all. The internet moved on quickly. Cheating wife had its 15 minutes before being replaced by fresher scandals. Occasionally, someone would recognize me at the grocery store, a lingering stare, a whispered comment, but most days I was just another face in the crowd. Then came the email. From Daniel Henderson. The subject line alone made my fingers freeze above the keyboard. I expected rage, threats, maybe even a plea for mercy. Instead, it was a resignation letter. I'm leaving the state. Can't walk into a gas station without someone recognizing me. Just wanted you to know she's seeing someone new already, some lawyer from her firm. Guess some people never change. I deleted it without responding. That afternoon, I met Sarah for coffee, a colleague from work who'd sent a simple message after the news broke. I went through something similar last year. If you ever want to talk. We didn't discuss the divorce, didn't mention the videos, just talked about books and bad office coffee and her daughter's soccer team. When I got home, the cat wound between my legs as I stood in the doorway. The walls were bare where our photos had hung, waiting for new memories to fill the spaces. I took out my phone. Dinner next Friday? I texted Sarah, somewhere with terrible wine and no cameras. Her reply came instantly. Only if you promise not to wear red. I laughed for the first time in months. The house was quiet, but it no longer echoed. I was going to be okay.